it's Sarah and welcome to the Empowered Mothers Network podcast, supporting mothers to be the best version of themselves. This is episode 14 and this episode is about knowing your worth. So this is leading on from the last episode, which was about finding your voice, and now we're moving into knowing your worth. So I think most of us in one sphere or another don't really know our worth. It might be in the workplace or on your career path, or if you're a stay-at-home mum, it might be seeing the value in the role that you're doing and providing, even though it's like an unpaid role and not really recognised by society as being of value as much as something that you would necessarily go out to work and do. For example, you know, if you go and clean houses, you get paid for that. Whereas if you clean your own house and that's part of your kind of stay-at-home job, then you don't get recompense for that. So there's that sphere of things. It could be that you don't know your worth so well on like a level of the physical. So obviously I think I talked in another episode about how we're like bombarded now with you know, like beauty and adverts, and we always have been really. But we're bombarded with sort of advertising telling us as women we're not enough and we don't look good enough, and pitting us against each other, looks-wise particularly. Hence why actually I'm not wearing any makeup for this podcast, because I wasn't wearing any makeup today anyway. So I thought, why bother putting some on to record myself on a phone talking, really? It's took me years actually, on a side note, to kind of get to a place where I can leave the house without makeup on, because I was so kind of, I don't want to say brainwashed, but just so influenced growing up by the whole concept of my physical looks and what I looked like and what I looked like compared to other people. So not wearing any makeup is quite a big thing for me still. It's not as big as it was a few years ago maybe, but it's definitely a path that I'm fairly recently on, sort of going out without makeup on. So that's quite freeing in a way. So yeah, it might be, you know, you compare yourself looks-wise to other people. Another one is like if you're in a relationship and, you know, if something like if you've been cheated on, for example, and then that can really knock your worth and make you feel physically, you know, inferior in some way, or that, you know, it kind of looks-wise, that can really potentially knock you down. So if you're in a relationship as well, you might have this not feeling as worthy as like you perceive that your partner is. And again, I think this can sometimes come up in like sort of entrenched gender roles that we've had from years and years of conditioning. You see, I just think of simple things here, like tiny little simple things, like sometimes you end up, if you've got like a husband or a boyfriend or something, you might end up like giving them a bigger portion of food because they're the man. And these are quite outdated things now for sure. But I think subconsciously for some of us, they still exist as like this kind of unconscious gender bias. I'd actually be quite interested to know how that is for people who are now younger, so sort of in the 20s and younger, because, yeah, I don't know if that's still kind of being entrenched and subconsciously there, or whether it's sort of fading out with each passing generation, which I suspect it is. So as someone who's about to hit 40, we're kind of in the middle of, you know, we're kind of progressive, I think, in gender equality, but at the same time we've got very old conditioning that maybe hasn't quite gone away yet. And you have these subconscious things like, you know, it could even be something as simple as like sacrificing your own time more in pursuit of your partner, or just something subconscious like that. It's those little things. So you might not even like consciously pick up on it, but they can often be there. It might be as well that if you've got like your role within the family unit, you might have other family members that kind of tend to dominate family dynamics. So you might be kind of unsure of your worth within that situation of the family dynamics. So those are some of like the spheres of life where we can experience low self-worth, and it can often stem from traumatic experiences as well in either previous years, earlier on in life, or particularly childhood as well. And I think I've talked a little bit about that in past episodes. There's the episode about healing intergenerational trauma. I've talked about it there as well. So even if we feel generally sort of okay and comfortable within ourselves, we can sometimes have like these life situations that like suddenly crack us open and expose our vulnerabilities, really. And when these happen, the key is not to try and cover them up or rebury them, or pretend they're not there or medicate them, but really to sit with them and sit with that often extremely uncomfortable feeling or extremely emotionally painful feeling, and try and see what medicine lies within. And again, this is one of them things that sounds really easy in theory, but in practice it is messy and it is difficult. But my question today is, would you sit with the vulnerability if you knew that you could transmute that vulnerability into strength? So in a lot of these podcast episodes that I've been doing, I'm kind of talking and discussing like tips and suggestions and things that you can maybe do in a certain situation, or things you could think about, or things to read or study further. But I think as this episode is about knowing your own worth, that's something that's really an inside job, and we can't just fix that with like a hack culture that we have now, particularly on platforms like YouTube and Facebook and things, where you've got a lot of videos about kind of hacking your way out of things and quick fixes and shortcuts, and we always want to take kind of the easy, shortest way to solve a pain point or a problem. But this is one of them situations where really you can try to, but it's not really gonna work. We have to really do that inner work, and that inner work is hard and it's messy and it takes time. It can take years, it can take even a lifetime. But I have my thoughts on what we can do. I feel like part of it is breaking through the comparison of ourselves to others, which is something I discussed in episode 12. But really breaking out of that comparisonitis and pitting ourselves in, whether it's in looks or intelligence or decision making or whatever, in terms of that, against other people. As soon as we start comparing ourselves, that's just going to erode into self-worth. And part of it might be accepting ourselves for who we are right now, and that also includes like the messiness of being a human being. Maybe if we're feeling rats about ourselves, we can remind ourselves of all the times that we've had to be resilient in life, and how we've sort of come through these situations, and we've had these testing situations in life before. There might be different ones, or there might be variants of a similar theme, and how we've come through those situations to get to the other side. As an aside there, if you do find that you are going through similar situations throughout the course of your life, then it may be that those similar situations are coming up to teach you something. And again, it's finding the medicine in that. So what could that be trying to teach you? Which can be difficult to look for when you're in the middle of a lot of emotional or mental anguish. It can be difficult to kind of step out of that. So that's why practices, again, like your mindfulness meditation and things, are useful on loads of different facets and issues of life, because it tries to give you that way of just stepping out of everything and taking more of an observer look and trying to find the more healing parts of what might be a frankly horrific situation. Maybe we have to work on this concept of not relying on like our own self-validation through other people, and that we need to maybe not medicate the vulnerability as well when it comes up. So that might look like drugs, alcohol, shopping. And something I keep speaking on most podcast episodes actually is like the power of community and getting together with like-minded people. And it can be really useful when you are in a place of very low self-worth to like join up with other people and share stories and just support each other in that way. However, sometimes these situations, like if you're in, as I talked about earlier, sometimes sudden life situations can hit, and that's what causes the sudden sort of shock to your identity and your self-worth. So if you're in something like a situation like that, you might not necessarily want to sit and talk with other people and hash it all out and just have everything on the table and be really open about it. You might want to more have that situation and have support from other people, but at more of a distance, and not kind of explain the whole situation. And I think that's probably because we don't necessarily want to discuss something with others unless we're really, really close to them and we know we're very safe with them. That bring up these feelings of like embarrassment and shame within us. So whether you want to share and lay everything on the table with people and share stories and be vulnerable that way, or whether you kind of want some support but you're more wanting to keep the stories to yourself at the moment, I don't think either way is wrong. So if you're in a place of struggling right now, then through time and space, I see you. Even though I'm on a video, I send out as much support as I can to you, and it can be really vulnerable time. But if you are struggling, just definitely, if you take away one thing, know that you're not ever alone in struggling. Other people support you, and other people are also going through struggles as well. So you're never truly alone in anything. And if you are able, again, as I said, to kind of take more of that observer role, and it probably won't be straight away if it's something sudden that's happened, but if you can, once you get past a certain point of emotional pain where you can look at the situation with even a little bit of objectivity, then whether you can find the medicine within that situation and start thinking about whether you can kind of sit with that vulnerability and go through it, and maybe you can transmute it into inner strength, and essentially that might be a catalyst for you to step into your own power. So just a really short one today. Hope this has helped. If you have been in a situation where your self-worth has been absolutely pushed to the floor, then, if you want to share any of your own stories in the comments, please feel free. Anything that you found useful in getting through that situation, or using it to really connect, boost your self-worth in the long run, and maybe really connect and step into your own power. Just let me know in the comments. If you want to stay in touch and keep up with podcast episodes, subscribe on YouTube or sign up to the mailing list. Otherwise, I will see you for the next podcast episode.